Hello, and welcome to another edition of Your Therapist Needs Therapy podcast, where mental health professionals talk about how they navigate their own mental wellness while working in the mental health field. I'm your host, Jeremy Schumacher, licensed marriage and family therapist and participant in my own therapy. Hooray, team. We're going to talk about how New Year's resolutions never work, except how they work exactly how they were designed to work, which is for the capitalistic ruling class to make you feel bad about yourself. Hey, no, this has been a growing trend over my career that I've enjoyed watching and also calling out as often as I can. New Year's resolutions are stupid and don't work. And there's a ton of data that suggests that this is true. I think we've moved beyond just the data points that say New Year's resolutions don't work. And we're getting to some good messaging and some understandable, logical points that people can make, sort of suggesting that none of this makes sense. First and foremost, January is a terrible time to start new things if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. It is cold. It is dark. It is not a time where motivation is high. It is a time where your nervous system, your body, everything from that brain body connection is telling you to rest and hibernate. Now, like, we're not hibernating mammals, so we don't need to take all of the months off, but we have limited daylight to do things, and we have cold temperatures, and we have a lack of vitamin D. And so the idea of what we feel awake and alert and motivated to do is shrunk down. We just had the longest night of the year, which is also simultaneously the shortest day of the year. And the difference between the winter solstice and New Year's Eve is like 9 days. It's not a lot of time for your body to be like, hey, I feel better about the shadows going away and the sunlight returning. Like, cognitively, we note that on the solstice, but that is not something that our body feels yet. It still feels dark. It still feels cold. We still want to bundle up and stay indoors. And what else is happening culturally, which again is a choice, not a necessary thing, but we're just coming out of the holiday season. So November through December is sort of a straight sprint of capitalistic nonsense and stress related to holidays, all at a time where, again, it's cold and dark out in the Northern Hemisphere. We are drained. And if you are somebody who owns capital and you run a factory like Jeff Bezos, run factories like Jeff Bezos, where you time how many workers are on their bathroom break at a time, and you need your van drivers to pee in a cup so that you stay on point and don't get behind at all. Winding down, things being tough, being burned out, feeling tapped out isn't what you want. You want rejuvenation. You want everybody to feel jazzed about something. And so, where capitalism has sort of taken a holiday that centers gratitude and made it about gluttony, where capitalism has taken a celebration of the darkest time of the year and made it about capitalism, about buying gifts, about consumerism, where that next thing goes is new year, new me becomes a way to blame yourself for systemic failures. We know that gym membership skyrockets in January. Gym memberships are on sale right now. Fitness trackers are on sale. All the stuff to start a new year with a new person attached to it is all on sale. And nothing in our late stage capitalistic hellhole has changed. It's getting worse, right? We have a Republican president who is tanking the economy and starting a war for oil. Gosh, that sounds familiar. Who could have seen it coming? Literally everyone. Everyone. Everyone knew this was happening. And if you voted for it thinking that you were voting for a peace president, you like to follow propaganda and should work on your critical thinking skills. No, this is a terrible time to start a new workout routine. This is a terrible time to try and make life changes based on the arbitrary switch of the calendar number from 25 to 26. Again, the difference between December 31st, 2025 and January 1st, 2026 is nothing. There's no change there. Sure, some people maybe reset their financial calendars, although a lot of people do that in June, businesses, corporations anyway. Um, like nothing changes. The amount of sunshine we get is pretty much the same. The temperatures we get pretty much the same. Nothing for our external bodies, the rhythms where we're at changes. It's cold. Nothing's growing. The world around us is cold and hibernating. And again, we don't need to hibernate, but now isn't the time to be like, let's go start something new. Um, and resolutions, I've talked about this piece of it a lot more in the past. Resolutions are not a way to do things. We do not make change in our life based on declarations. I'm a marriage therapist. When I see people who are in a crisis mode in their relationship, they will often do any sort of bargaining they can to keep their relationship afloat. I'll never do that again is a declaration. I'll do anything for you as a declaration. And these things are never true and because they're unsustainable. We don't make changes based on declarations. We make changes based on setting ourselves up for success in an environment that allows for and supports change is necessary to make a change. Small incremental change is far more likely than big swing changes that change significant portions of our life in a short amount of time. Those things just don't happen all that often. And those changes that do happen in a short amount of time are usually not positive ones. So, setting yourself up for incremental change over time and making sure that you have a structure that supports change, making sure that you have prepped your environment, whether that's the people around you or the physical space you exist in or the logistics that dictate your life. Those things all need to be prepped for change and changed, generally speaking, slowly and incrementally over time instead of just in one fell swoop. It does not work that way. Right? So this is a bad system. I declare new year, new me is like Michael Scott standing in the office yelling that he declares bankruptcy. Like making a declaration doesn't make it true. And so a lot of this stuff is never going to work. And again, I hate sort of being the like party pooper who comes in and says, this is dumb and won't work. I mean, I don't hate it. My brain really likes pointing out why things are stupid and won't work. But I'm not like this huge downer of a person. I love ritual. I think the idea that we as a society all take time off and celebrate something together is, in theory, a wonderful idea. Part of the reason the solstice got celebrated was like to mark the passage of time. And I think that's useful and necessary. I'm a fan of celebrating the solstice. Um, but the reason why something like Christmas got tacked onto that was for political reasons. There's a whole big thing. I'm a religious trauma therapist. Don't come in my comments and try and tell me what Christmas is about. Um, the but that time of year, why was that a celebration? Well, before we had modern refrigeration, the things that were fresh and were going to eventually deteriorate to the point where you couldn't eat them needed to get eaten by now, right? If harvesting was in September, October, maybe late into November, those things, those food stores were running low, and the things that needed to be eaten before they went bad got eaten at a big festival. Let's throw a celebration. Let's pool our resources together to get one big meal, one big party, one big celebration. And then we're going to huddle and sort of hunker down for the rest of the winter until we can get back to spring, which is when new things start growing and we can do, our planning and stuff. And so you had this celebration where people could, again, collaborate on what they had available to make a ritualistic celebration, a party. You also had a opportunity to meet with people and exchange goods in preparation for your spring season. So swapping seeds and whatever else you're going to be doing. You had this exchange of goods and the celebration all available because, again, we're not hibernating creatures, so we don't turn it off for 3 months. But winter is a time to plan, to strategize, to think about spring. It isn't necessarily planting season. You're not starting something new yet. You're just pondering it. If anything, New Year's resolutions should be about contemplating what you would like to see differently in your year and prepping, setting the structure up for success for the spring when the days are warmer, the days are longer, we have more sunshine, it's warmer out, we're more interested in doing something different naturally in our normal rhythms as a creature that exists in the environment of the northern hemisphere of the world around us is coming to life, and that's a natural time to also do that. And so, thinking in terms of like what's the old school, where did our earlier humans, where did Homo sapiens get some of this idea? Well, like it made practical sense then. And I think as we've industrialized and certainly the modern world has moved away from any sort of ritual that is practical, and it's mostly rooted in consumerism, these ideas get lost and they get shifted to, well, it's Christmas, so why not? Um, and like not everybody was doing things because it was practical and ritualistic. Some of that was control methods too, of sacrifices and appeasing the gods for a pleasant winter or for a good spring season or whatever. Like some of these rituals, I'm not some like let's return to an agrarian culture. I am a little bit like that, but I'm aware that it's impractical. um, but like I'm not suggesting that early Homo sapiens or even the humans in the 800s had it figured out. Like the feudal system is still around. We haven't improved on it, except for the people who are landowners have improved on the space between them and the peons, and so less likely to have uprisings and French revolutions, unfortunately. Um, but the idea of coming together as a community, as a culture, again, late stage capitalism has taken that piece away too. Some of these celebrations are um, familial in nature. Again, Thanksgiving and Christmas, pretty much all I talk about are family of origin stressors that people have. And, it's not community based. It's not getting together with your geographic location. It's getting together with your quote unquote nuclear family. And again, like I'm speaking generally about what the culture does. I'm not saying that I agree with it or I think it's healthy. Again, if you're getting together with community and you're doing chosen family stuff, that's great and lovely. And I think that's what we as human beings should be doing. But again, like this isn't pooling of resources. This isn't coming together as a community. Again, the nuclear family is a creation to individualize us because we're easier to one control, but also if you're in a capitalistic society you can sell more things, right? The classic example is if you need one hammer in the entire neighborhood. Capitalism teaches everybody that they need their own hammer, right? And so having to travel, having to go home to see your family, like we have time off but it's not really to do anything. Right? It's not everybody gets 2 weeks off in June and July to go out on the lake and enjoy nature and do stuff. And I like winter stuff, right? Like I like ice fishing, I like snowmobiling, I like tromping through the forest with snow, like a big part of our break was being out on a frozen pond near us and just playing in the snow, on the ice, building forts and collecting sticks and breaking through the ice with big enough sticks. And yeah, like I little kids, like that's what we do. I like winter. Again, it's not about hibernating, it's about hunkering down. It's about we have limited light, we have limited days that aren't painful to be outside. Um, and so again, like resolutions being about prepping for change, and ritual being about community is not where we're at, even though that is in theory what could have been, what used to be. Um, the it, it's hard for me to not like get off topic here on capitalism is still just the feudal system. I mean, old school rituals, early workers in sort of an agrarian culture in the feudal system had about 100 to 150 days off that were either celebrations or ceremonies or ritual gatherings where they were not devoted to labor. And again, ritual time served as coming together as community, served as a stress reliever, served as an opportunity to exchange resources and share goods. It was about social bonding and rest, as opposed to now it being about excess and about productivity and grind culture. Um, New year, new me is usually like gym or weight loss or a productivity goal or a financial goal for how much money we're going to make in the new year or whatever. And so, like, late stage capitalism is able to take the community out of it and also replaces sort of the goal as like, what do I want to do for my community? What do I want to do like to be a better person? And makes it about self-reliance and self-surveillance. Again, it's one of the new things where like fitness and wellness is not about are you well rested, are you well liked, are you well connected in your community. It's about what's the number on the scale. Are you eating healthy enough? It's fitness trackers that are showing your problems with sleep when the world is on fire and there's a poly crisis going on of politics and finances and multiple genocides, climate change and multiple disasters. And you have all of this information, and then you're like tracking your sleep as if you not sleeping well is a you problem instead of a world problem, right? Tracking your heart rate and not acknowledging that like you might be under certain financial strain. I had an Aura ring for a while. It was the fitness tracker you wear as a ring. And like I liked it for tracking my sleep. I don't have it on now, not wearing a ring beyond my wedding ring because the subscription model is nonsense. Again, the idea that we don't own anything, right? And uh, isn't helpful. And they're expensive. When mine broke, it was like, yeah, I reset my sleep and I learned some things about my sleep patterns, and that's helpful. And I don't need to keep re-upping this to make a capitalistic purchase about my health and wellness. Again, if you get benefit from the trackers, I'm not speaking out against them. I like them for athletes. I like them for people who are interested in making a lifestyle change. But again, the idea of self surveillance is these things, whether it's fitness or productivity, weight loss goals, fitness goals, whatever it is couched in productivity based language. It's grind culture, it's not wellness. And even the wellness culture is often grind culture, it's not wellness. And so, like, these things are, I'm going to be more efficient, I'm going to be more productive as resolutions are capitalistic in nature. They are not human. They're not, we're self-aware primates, right? You're not going to find a different primate out there who's worried about productivity in the new year. We're designed to be doing repetitive tasks in a field and picking bugs off of each other, right? Like that's, and we could be doing that. So the way that we do New Year's resolutions now internalize blame for systemic problems. They take exhaustion and say that's a you problem. You are not trying hard enough. You're not working effectively enough. You're not doing or being or tracking enough things instead of like, hey, why the fuck isn't healthcare available to everyone? It's a uniquely American problem. Um, why aren't our kids safe when we drop them off at school? Why are guns the number one killer of children? That's a problem. And so like the resolutions are not for a better community, are not for a better culture, are not for better policies. They're individual resolutions so that we're not looking at the wider issues. And it's not about class or culture or any sort of higher level system. Um, or raising the consciousness of those systems. It's individualized because then the system at large, capitalism, doesn't need to make any changes. So, you know, resolve to hold your local politicians to account. And again, this all fits then from a capitalistic perspective on like why do New Year's as the time for resolutions as opposed to a better time is because failure is part of the process, right? Gym memberships spike in January and they don't maintain through February. This is like a well-known, well-tracked phenomenon. Resolutions, I'm declaring I'm going to be healthier, aren't what keeps motivation alive. One of my many mantras in therapy, one of my top mantras in therapy is motivation feeds on success. And so our brain requires checking that box, crossing that thing off the list, getting that little feel good hit of dopamine. When we complete a task, makes us keep completing tasks. And so when it's dark, when it's cold, when it's hard to do things, we're at our lowest energy, least amount of daylight, most amount of debt because we just spent a bunch of money on consumeristic holidays, and shame, right? Like, I don't know about y'all, but my workout routine wasn't the best over the holidays. My eating habits aren't the best when there's fudge available. Come on, right? And again, like there's a balancing act. I'm not saying it's unhealthy or bad to participate in any of that stuff. Like if you like Christmas cookies as part of your ritual with your chosen community, like that's awesome. Do that, right? I love fudge. It's so good. I'm an old man now. It gives me heartburn. It's too rich. It's still delicious. Um, like so we're high on debt, we're low on energy, we're low on sunlight, and we're high on shame, right? Like people doing things they didn't feel good about, whether it's eating too much, drinking too much, whatever it is. My camera died today while I was in my own therapy session. I had to switch to my not nice camera. I was like, oh no, look how pasty I am. Because I live in Wisconsin and you don't go out in the sun. And if you do go out in the sun, everything is covered. We don't have that much snow right now, but even just like protecting your eyeballs from getting sunburned is an important thing if you live in the cold part of the northern hemisphere. So all of this stuff is like, you know, French philosopher Guy Debord wrote a great book called The Society of Spectacle. This is all spectacle. This is performative change. This is not about actually changing anything. Certainly not about systemic change. It's theater, in the service of productivity still. And so we feel good and motivated because somebody decided the Gregorian calendar is going to change, which like isn't even a good calendar system, right? We could have 13 months of 28 days that would track what the moon is doing and what the seasons are doing much, much better. Why is everything we do so stupid? Um, but this is a fantasy, and then when the fantasy fails, like it's an individual failing instead of a systemic one. And so it certainly serves to keep the greasy wheel of capitalism and grind culture and productivity first moving along, um, as opposed to like a time of quiet contemplation where we could say like, why am I so tired? Why am I burnt out? Why isn't healthcare accessible? Why are guns more protected than children? Why is oil cared about far more than women and children? Um, why do I hate my job? Why do most people not like their jobs? Why is it okay that AI is going to replace everyone? What happens when AI replaces everyone? No one's working and none of us have any money. Like what's the plan? And like again, there is no plan, right? And capitalists' goal is just to divert our attention so that we're not asking that question. Shareholders and the people who hold capital are not thinking about a future; they're thinking about the next financial quarter. And so a time of quiet contemplation and reflection is scary for them because it doesn't take very long for people to realize this sucks and it sucks on purpose. And the purpose is stupid. I swear I do feel like a bit of a downer. Um, Let's look at some hopefulness. Sorry, I'm bad at being earnest. Um, what would work for resolution? Again, I think a different time frame. Now is the time for thinking about how you want to plant your garden, organizing your seeds, looking at changes you want to make, looking at the data, the information we have from the last year, and prepping for change, not trying to implement change yet. And so, I think thinking about what is need, what do we need to do differently in our environment to create change, whether that's physical space, often a structure within our schedules, logistics, planning for those types of changes, figuring out what support looks like, and all those environmental changes, changing our ecosystem is going to be helpful, but also like support from other people, friends, family, professionals. Do you need a new therapist? Do you need a personal trainer? Do you need to join a class or a group? Are you investing in your community so that change is systemic, even if it's just in that local ecosystem as opposed to wider culture? Is it safe? What do we maybe need for some stability to make this change? How can we replicate success? And I have a sports psychology background, as a high level athlete myself, being in a sports family growing up. Like, you can learn from your mistakes, but you also want to know what replicating success looks like. If you want to talk about when do we feel motivated to make change, motivation feeds on success. So if we focus on how do we replicate success, not for productivity's sake, not for efficiency's sake, but because this is what works well for us. This is we have evidence that it works well. It's so hard for like to keep individualistic thinking at bay. Like, I'm an American and I'm a white male, and so the water I swim in is still individualistic. Um, but again, like how are we how can we replicate success so that we stay motivated for this change within an environment that is designed to support that change? That all sounds really great. And again, I marriage therapist, right? Family thinker. So individual change, behavioral change is what we call first order change. I'm going to nerd out for a second. It's first order change. It's the simplest. The example I always use when I'm explaining this stuff to clients is quitting smoking is a behavioral change. Um, Now, there's a lot that can actually go into whether or not that's successful. Smoking is a complicated example. Again, pick it on purpose because you're talking about an addictive substance, and then we have to do all the environmental stuff, the ecosystem around just one individual changing one singular behavior actually becomes quite complex through a systemic lens. Second order change is a system changing. Generally speaking, in my world, that's couples, but also family work where we're getting multiple people to agree to a behavioral change and working to make that successful. If more people are invested in making the change is more likely and the change is also longer lasting. Third order change, where am I at? First order, behavior change, individual changing one behavior. Second order change, a system change, multiple people committing to a change. Third order change, we talk about as a value system or an ethics change, a belief system change, and that's really powerful, right? And that's not generally going to be necessary for most resolutions that we're talking about. But again, when I talk about congruence, it's thoughts, feelings, and actions all aligned under our value system. And that's where, again, that's what we're talking about, the system change and also like the environment that the change exists in is designed to support it. That's all really powerful stuff. We just don't experience congruence that often. It's not supposed to be a state that we get to. It's not a finish line that we cross. It ebbs and flows because thoughts and feelings are things we experience, not things we can control. We do control our actions, and we do have a lot of choice when it comes to our ethics. Although, again, like, that's not always intentional stuff. But intention is a big word for me in therapy. And again, I think what people like about New Year's, and if you're tuning in and being like, the fuck, Jeremy, I'm crushing my New Year's resolutions. Why are you being such a downer? Yeah, like anytime we're living more intentionally, it has the opportunity to create change, and it probably feels good when we do things aligned with our intentions, when we do things that we are choosing to do on purpose, and then we're doing it, we do feel good. It's just, again, like the system we've put around making changes kind of sucks. New Year's resolutions are dumb. Um, at this stage in my career, I'm also just like aware of our bodies and rest. Some of that comes with the wisdom of aging, where your body's just like, nah, not gonna do that. Nah, not gonna feel good if you don't warm up and cool down. Nah, gonna take a nap, gonna rest. You need your sleep at night. Um, but also like just focusing more on like community is the rise of authoritarianism across the world, but specifically fascism here in America. And again, the rise, it's always been here for black and brown people. White people are experiencing it more and more, but also like class consciousness and a lot of these things. Like there's a lot of community, there's a lot of second order change that needs to happen on a structural sort of policy level. And so connecting to your community and focusing on change there, resolving to build community, to connect with community, to support community, like it's all really, really great. That is what we need. So, yeah, if you're struggling in your New Year's resolutions, know that that's on purpose. It's not a personal failing. The system of New Year's resolutions are designed for failure. New Year's resolutions aren't about hope. They're about a brief hit of positivity to keep you going through the slog that is winter, to exist in a society that does not change for the environment changing. The idea that we're going to keep the same work hours when it's colder out, it's darker out, it's unpleasant to leave our house and move about is preposterous. And that's a lie. We've been told that that's even necessary. Um, Being aware of like the self surveillance and the individual nature of resolutions, whether it's success or failure, as opposed to having a systemic lens on things, uh, ecosystem lens on culture writ large, as opposed to individualistic approaches to it. And connecting with our bodies again, like there is a natural rhythm to the world around us, and our bodies adapt to that rhythm, not to the rhythm that we force ourselves to follow through culture, through acculturation, through indoctrination. um so yeah, I don't know, like January is not a particularly hopeful time. Resolutions are designed to fail, and capitalism cashes in on that. This is doing what it's designed to do. New Year's themed capitalism, as opposed to New Year, New Me. Um, so yeah, it's not a you problem. You're not broken. You're not doing anything bad or wrong. The system of New Year's resolutions is always been bad or wrong. I guess for other cultures who do New Year's at different times, but like, yeah, it's spring. Your seasonal spring, wherever you're at in the world, your seasonal spring is going to be a good time to do a new year, birth, rejuvenation, fresh start. That's going to work a lot better. It's going to be aligned. And again, practically speaking, you have to set yourself up for success. So winter is a time for thinking, for planning, for preparing is really great, as opposed to implementing those changes. So yeah, I think I have a different resolution video on my YouTube channel from years ago. I'm wondering, I mean, I know what it's about. I'm guessing I've really upped the seasonal approach and also the body-based approach. So reflecting as a therapist here, a professional in the field who has these conversations pretty regularly with folks, like that's a change to be aware of. Again, thinking always I've been a systems thinker, but paying more attention to the body, paying more attention to community, paying more attention to the environment around us, whether that supports success or not. If you want to make resolutions, that's the encouragement, and a gentle encouragement to adopt something, a time frame that makes sense for your current environment. For your southern hemisphere, it's summer right now. And so in theory, that's things are growing, things are already implementing. Again, approaching it as like an environment where you're growing sustenance, where you're growing your own food, where you're growing the things that you need to survive. Follow that environmental trend, follow those seasonal shifts is probably a wise decision. Again, your body is very aware of the environment, what's going on in your physical environment around you. So Yeah, I'm not opposed to resolutions. I'm opposed to New Year's January 1st resolutions. That's dumb and it makes you feel bad. And it's a way to participate in capitalism that you don't need to. So fuck that. Let's reevaluate now and then we'll do our changes in the spring. Okay, see you then. But for real, take care of yourself, take care of somebody else. We'll be back next week with another new episode. So I appreciate everybody tuning in this new year. All right, peace.